Welcome to Film Snob HQ. The road to Avengers Doomsday continues, but after a long journey, we are at the end of Phase 4, the fifth era of Marvel films. It has been a long journey. We're going to do a huge recap in the next episode, but we are here to talk about the long-awaited sequel to a hugely successful film back in 2018 that was rife with complications. That was no one's fault. It was quite tragic. And it even left fans wondering whether there would ever be a sequel. They did make one. I think they did a really good job. We're going to talk about it. It is, of course, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So Black Panther was a huge film, made $1 billion in 2018. It was the last film released before before Avengers Infinity War, and gave us the origin story, or at least a solo story, for King T'Challa, the Black Panther. It introduces to the world of Wakanda, all the relevant people in there, in that region, and just set up a few more things. Then, tragically, Chadwick Boseman, who played T'Challa, passed away from an illness, something he kept to himself. He never publicized. It was quite shocking for people, but he'd chosen not to turn his health and private life into a spectacle. He chose to kind of suffer privately, sadly. I knew that he may not be available for the sequel. There was a version of this film which was all about King T'Challa, but following the passing of Chadwick Boseman, they had to restructure it. And this is a film, first of all, about grief, but also about moving on, accepting responsibility, and trying to be a better person in a world that was left for you. So Wakanda is in mourning. Queen Ramona and Shuri are kind of at a loss. Heavily brokenhearted from the passing of King T'Challa. They killed off T'Challa, so they didn't have to recast. That's been a controversial move. I think a lot of people would have liked to see someone step into the role, and even Chadwick Boseman's family have said, look, just recast him. Like, he's not that. He was never that kind of person who felt only he could fill the shoes. But that's okay. The MCU have decided to remove the character. So Queen Ramona is now back in charge of Wakanda. She has no husband. She has no son. There is no Black Panther to protect Wakanda. And Wakanda is now making enemies. There are different regions from all around the world following the events of Endgame who are trying to keep Wakanda to hold their promise to share their resources by any means necessary. Different organizations from Europe and America are trying to get into Wakanda and steal the vibranium for themselves. And whilst they're defending themselves and trying to stop this from happening, a new invader makes an appearance. A godlike man from beneath the water who goes by the name Namor. He has winged feet, and he is basically Marvel's version of Aquaman. Namor, I believe, was created first. I could be wrong. And he is the first mutant as well. He was always the first mutant. He was a mutant before the X-Men. In this, they don't call him a mutant. He is more of a godlike character. And basically, he comes from a place called Talocan, which is a very Aztec-inspired society. And they also have access to vibranium because the meteorite that hit Wakanda also had shards go underwater, which gave them access to it as well. They're incredibly powerful warriors, and they're trying to get Wakanda to stop people from coming in and sharing the wealth and things like that. And they're basically like, if you don't keep people out of Wakanda, we're going to fight you. And they do. And I talked about a few episodes ago with Morbius, how the villain was ruthless. Namor is ruthless, just like in the comics. He's not someone to be trifled with. He's not friendly. When he doesn't get what he's want from negotiations with Shuri, he kills major characters. He floods Wakanda. Like, he comes for blood and sand and just destroys everyone. We are also introduced to the character of Riri Williams, who is Ironheart. She would go on to get her own show, which was produced by Ryan Coogler later on. But she is brought into the fold because she created, just for fun, just for a project, a machine that can detect vibranium, because previously vibranium was undetectable, and now all the different governments of the world want to use it so they can find Wakanda's vibranium. And Namor is like, you got to kill this girl and destroy this machine so no one can get it. Shuri doesn't want to kill an innocent girl for making something kind of by accident, and that's where the war really begins. Visually, it is stunning. I think visually it's more impressive than the first one. The first one obviously had its own CGI issues. The underwater stuff alone is incredible. But there are new suits. Okoye gets the angel suit, the Blue Angel, I think it's called, which is incredible. There's some wonderful fight scenes. It's a lot more story driven and emotional. This is a film that's going to make you cry for sure. And I will say it, I like this better than the first one. It feels weird to say that and unfortunate to say, given that there's a major difference between the first film and the second film, that is the loss of Chadwick Boseman. It's not him. He was fantastic. He was a great Black Panther. But I found the first film to be very interesting, but Black Panther himself, T'Challa, the most boring character in his story, because he's so regal, because he's so honest and good, he is kind of boring. And not in a way that people say Superman can be boring, because I think Superman, you can make interesting. Black Panther can be interesting, but because he was just not a flawed character at all. He always made the right decision. He always made the honorable decision. He could never be tempted. And because of that, like when Killmonger came in, he just accepted. He's like, yeah, you can fight me. That's fine. Like, those are the rules. Like, he didn't fight back, really. I just found it to be just a less interesting character. When you throw Shuri into the mix, who's a heavily flawed character, who's guided by emotion and rage and vengeance, that makes for a more interesting protagonist. So I do like this one better. It's definitely long, but it doesn't feel long. It moves quite quickly for me. I really dig it. I think they're both great pieces, the first and the second one. I'm keen to see what they do with the third one. We do finally get a Black Panther. I won't spoil it for you in case you don't know who it is, because there were a lot of questions as to who would step into the mantle. Would it be Shuri? Would it be Nakia? Would it be M'Baku? And they do answer that question, of course. It takes a while to get there. For a long time, there is no Black Panther, but there's definitely other things going on. Everett Ross returns. Valerie DeFontaine returns. We learned something crazy about her history. There's definitely a romantic connection that I wasn't expecting in there. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. It sets up a lot of interesting things, but also is definitely a great sequel to the first film, and introduces a really complex villain in Namor. And Namor is back in Doomsday. We've seen him in that first teaser. I think he was in that teaser. If he wasn't, he's definitely been kind of listed as a returning cast member. In terms of returning cast, I think we're getting M'Baku. He was in the trailer. We're getting Shuri. We're getting who did I just say? Namor. I imagine we'll get Okoye back as well, most likely. Riri probably as well, given that she got her own show following this. So yeah, I think they're all back. Next up, we're going to do a recap of Phase 4 / the Fifth Era, and then we're going to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.